771. It's 24 minutes to 8 at Downpatrick. Teenager will be at Downing Street this morning to lobby for better physiotherapy services for those with muscular diseases. Michaela Hollywood, a pupil at St Mary's High School, has spinal muscular atrophy, but despite her condition, gets just one session of physio a month. And let's hear from Michaela, who's in London, and physiotherapist Siobhan Macaulay, who's here. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning, Michaela. You're in good voice. Tell us what your situation is.
Basically what we're doing is we're going to number 10. I was asked to represent Northern Ireland by the Muscular Dystrophy campaign, and we're going to lobby for better access to physiotherapy services, as it's much of a postcode lottery across the UK, and depending on where you live, you get better or a degraded physiotherapy service.
What happens, Michaela, if you don't get regular physiotherapy?
Well, in fact, I would get very bad pains in my legs if my muscles start to get shite. I have quite weak hands as well. So they can get worse, and I would find it hard to write in school, or I can't write exams for a long period of time, so that can get quite hard. And with physiotherapy on my muscles, that can ease it out. And as well, I would get I would get chest infections and pneumonia. And by physiotherapy on my chest, that would help me get better quickly and reduce the risk of lung damage.
Well, Siobhan, it's clear what Michaela's need is. Difficulty might be, from the government's point of view, this is not something that actually brings about an improvement in someone's condition. Would that be right? And therefore they might question whether the need is as great with them as it might be for others, where there will be signs of improvement.
I think for the progressive neuromuscular conditions, although there may not be improvement, some of these conditions are very aggressive and will cause a lot of progressive muscle weakness and wasting, and that will result in orthopaedic changes, cardiac and respiratory complications, and some of them are actually life-limiting. But if we can kind of slow down or retard some of this progressive muscle weakness, and maybe as a result of that minimise some of the complications, although the patient may not show improvement, it will have benefits from the government from the point of view of reduced cost, etc., from further complications. The other thing is, some of these patients, the situation will present itself later in adulthood. And the important thing is to try and keep people working and maintain an active and full life as long as possible.
Well, that's the point, isn't it, Michaela? Because you're such a good example of that. You get this regular physiotherapy so far, and what's it enabling you to do? You've, for example, an exam coming up on Friday.
Well, yeah, I have my first AS examination on Friday.
Your first AS A-level, effectively?
Yeah, it would be the first stage of your A-level. I would complete my A-levels next year.
And what would you like to do? What's your ambition?
I would like to go on and study genetics at Queen's University.
And the ability to do that depends, does it, on your continuing to get this treatment?
Right, I mean, I've been very sick this year with chest infections, and without the physio, I know I wouldn't be able to get fit enough to return to school, and indeed I've only really been at school around 3 months this year. But all being well, I can get my exams. I would need the continuing health, the continuing physio to be able to continue on at school and battle on and get my exams.
Well, battle on is right. So what do you want the government to do, Michaela?
Well, I think really what we need is more of an equality across the whole of the UK and indeed across the whole of Northern Ireland to be able to do physio.
And how is that to be achieved, Siobhan?
I think...
Well, I just want to... Yeah, I know you're such a good advocate, Michaela, for the cause, but I just want to bring in Siobhan on how what you would like to see can be achieved.
Well, we in Northern Ireland are very lucky that we have a Northern Ireland muscle clinic that will cover Northern Ireland, and actually the Isle of Man is encompassed in our remit as well. And within our clinic, it's a truly multidisciplinary clinic where there's a physiotherapist at the clinic. And we have a transition service from paediatrics right through to adulthood. So that does vary and certainly is a great advantage compared to some of the clinics in the UK. However, there is only one physiotherapist at that clinic, and it is only for that clinic. And so we depend really on the community physiotherapists or the other therapists throughout the country. And they may or may not have specialist knowledge of neuromuscular conditions because they are a specialist thing. So really we try to educate the physios throughout the community as best we can, and they can always phone into our centre if they need any help. But at the moment there is a shortage of physios, neurophysios in general, and particularly in this area.
Yeah, we've heard this before. That's the great need. Well, let's hope that somebody is listening who can do something about it. In the meantime, Siobhan and Michaela, thank you both very much.
90 minutes to 8 now. The Chinese military's made the first airdrops of relief supplies into the region at the epicentre of the earthquake, which has claimed at least 12,000 lives.